graphing circles, you are going to have an equation, and then the equation actually tells you certain pieces about the graph. So whenever you see this, you're always going to see the x in a parentheses, and then it's going to be something squared. Then you're going to see the same thing with the y. This is the general form for a circle. And with the general form of a circle, that h and that k value that's being subtracted from x and y are super helpful. Those create a point. It's not actually a point on the circle, but it's the base. You say, what's the one thing that we know? What makes something a circle? What are some things that you know about a circle?
The 360 degrees.
All right, it's 360 degrees. That's true. What else do you know about a circle?
Pi.
I'm gonna say, whenever we work with circles, most of our formulas, like for area and circumference, do work with pi. Anything else? I'm gonna say, we kind of talked about this earlier.
The
Talking
distance
about-
from the middle. Distance from the middle, like point, or all exercise is the same.
Okay, the distance from that middle point to the outside all the way around is the same. What is that distance from the middle of the circle out to the edge? That's the radius. Do you guys see r squared in the equation? So that last number, whatever this x minus and y minus pieces, whatever that equals is the radius squared. So we will be able to find the radius directly from the equation, and then those numbers that are being subtracted from x and y are the middle, that center point. So those are the two pieces of information that you can get from the circle. So the center of the circle are the numbers that are being subtracted from x and y. So we always call the number being subtracted from x h. Now do you guys see how that's a negative h here? But it's a positive here. So whatever sign you see in the parentheses, it'll always be the opposite for that x coordinate. The same thing for the y. It's a negative here, but it's a positive here. So whatever sign you see in your equation, I don't know why that's, I'm apparently in the way. So whatever signs you see, it'll always be the opposite for the center, and then the r stands for the radius. So since this is r squared, how do we get rid of a squared? We did that with Pythagorean theorem. What was the last step in the Pythagorean theorem? Like if we had something that was like c squared equals 25, what was c?
5.
5. We took the square root. So on that last number, it tells us what r squared is, so we'll take the square root of it and get the radius. And then once you have the center, you can simply plot the center, and then when you know the radius, you can count out and then make a circle. It's actually, graphing circles are probably one of the easiest things to graph, one of my favorite things to graph. So we will do some examples together. I put a bunch of examples on here. I don't know if we will necessarily get through every single one. We might jump around a little bit, but I definitely know I want to do number 1. So I'm going to scroll up to number 1. I'm going to zoom in as much as I can. All right, so on this one, we have x squared plus y squared equals 25. Now remember, this was the general formula, and I'll leave this up here. Alright, so we said the center was whatever was being subtracted from x and y. Are there any numbers being subtracted from x and y here? So if there's nothing there, what do you think the center is?
0.
Well, we have to have an x and a y coordinate. So alright, so is there anything being subtracted from x? There's nothing subtracted from x, so that tells us that our x coordinate is 0. Now, is there anything being subtracted from y? So what do you think the y coordinate is? 0. Alright, so we know that the center is 0, 0. So I am going to graph this right here. 0, 0 is the origin. Now the next thing we see on our equation is this 25. Do you think the radius is 25?
No.
Alright, so our equation told us that that number is equal to r squared. So if I take the square root of that, so if r squared is equal to 25, what's r?
5.
R is 5. We take the square root. So the radius is the distance all the way around from the center. So this is just a really good way to make some baseline points. Whatever the radius is, start from your center and then go up 5, since that's my radius, and make a dot. But it's also going to be the same distance to the left and to the right. So I'm going to go out 5 to the right, out 5 from the center to the left, and then I'm going to go to the center and go down 5. So that kind of gives us a guide. And then this is where we're actually, the circle never goes through this point, but it's just the center to help us get started. So now we are going to create a circle. And this isn't going to be the greatest circle. Alright, do you see here? I kind of made an egg. They're saying no eggs and no aliens. So I didn't do my best job up here. So I'm going to fix that. It needs to go out and up. That looks a little better. So I'm not expecting perfection, but I definitely don't want sloppy. So the first thing you do is find the center, plot it. Now, sometimes those will move around. Then we'll find our radius, and whatever the radius is, you simply just count out that many, and then we work on our circle. What do you guys think? I'm gonna say, any questions on that particular example?
Is that it? Not all you
That's it. So you don't really have to do any calculations except taking that square root to get the radius. Now we are going to skip number 2. Oh, I don't like any of those questions. Okay, I actually want to do number 3, but change 47 to 49. They're gonna say we're only going to deal with perfect squares. I did not do a good job picking problems. All right, so let's change this to a 49. All right, so the center is always what we subtract from x and y. So what are we subtracting from x?
0.
Y.
0.
So what's the center?
0.
All right, so the center is 0, 0. Whenever you say the center, you always have to have 2 numbers. You have to have an x and a y coordinate. Now, if r squared is 49, what's my radius this time? 7. So we're going to plot our center at 0, 0. Now this time, how many units am I going to go each way from the center? 7. So I'm going to go up to positive 7, 7, 7 to the left. And I will say the bigger the circles get, the harder I think they are to make perfect circles, but that one wasn't bad. say, phones should be put away. I see like 4 phones out right now. Get them put up. Alright, are you guys ready to see one where the center isn't 0, 0? Alright, let's jump down to... Alright, let's do 7 and 8. So we'll do 7 first. Alright, so just remember, in the equation it always says minus, but whatever is the sign always switches. So if you see a negative in the equation, it'll be a positive on your center coordinate. Same thing there. If it's a negative on the y in the equation, you're going to see a positive. So on this one, what are we subtracting from x? 3. So the x coordinate of the center is positive 3. Now what's going to be the y coordinate? Positive 2. So since we see negatives in the equation, the center will be positive. Now what's my radius?
2.
Radius is 2. We always have to take the square root of that number, so if r squared is 4, then that means our radius is 2. Alright, so we are going to graph, and let me get some different colors here. Alright, I'm going to graph my center in purple. Alright, my center is 3, 2. Where do I graph 3, 2? Give me directions.
Over 3 up.
Over which way?
Right.
And, alright, so we go over 3 up 2, that's my center. And then if my radius is 2, from the center, I just go up 2, to the right 2, go down 2, and to the left 2 to give us our guide points. And then from there we can draw our circle. Now, so this one's looking more like an egg. I can do better. You guys have any questions on number 7? Alright, let's do number 8. Alright, so we've got x plus 1 squared, y plus 2 squared equals 25. Alright, so let's look at the parentheses first. What's going to be my x coordinate for the center? -1. So for my center, my x coordinate is -1. Alright, now what's my y coordinate going to be? -2. So anytime you see a plus in the equation, the coordinate does become a negative. Now what's my radius? If I see 25 in the equation, yep, square root is 5. Alright, so to graph this, how do I graph -1, -2?
Go down 1 over 2 to the left.
Ooh, I don't think so. X coordinate goes first. X axis is left and right. Left 1 and down 2. So my center is right there. And my radius from there is 5. So each direction from the center, count out 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to make a point right here. So I went to the left 5. Went to the right 5. And I'm going to go up 5. Up from the center. And then from the center here, go down 5. And once we have that, and this one's going to look like an alien.
It's hard to get that point out very well.
You know, say it's, you kind of have to practice going, like you don't want to go directly to the point. It's almost like you have to think that you're going over and then kind of meet it as you go around. You know, say the more that you do these, the better you get. I will say writing like this is way harder than, I don't know, when you have more control over your pin at certain angles. All right, so what do you guys think about this?
Not too bad.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
All right, so this is part one of circles. So part one, I give you the equation, you draw the circle. Now tomorrow we're going to do some examples where I give you the circle, and then you're gonna give me the equation, and then Wednesday when you're at home, you're going to have an assignment over it. Not too bad. And I might even unlock the assignment tomorrow at 3. We'll see. Once I get through all the lessons.